What's up, everybody? I'm Mr. Chronicle, and today I'm going to be making an SCP tier list. If you don't know what SCP is, it's basically like a large, like a Wikipedia site kind of thing, but for monsters that people have created. Anybody can write an article and upload it to the website, as long as you fit the criteria. And usually they're pretty scary. Some of them are pretty like comedic. But there's just so many cool ideas that people have for these kinds of things, and it's really interesting to read about them. And I like to read about them all the time. And so today I picked out a bunch that I thought, there's some classic ones, the ones that people know about a lot, and there's also some that I think are not so well known. And I thought I'd note that a lot of the articles are written in like a scientist perspective. So they're like very formal. They use like big words, like a top secret government research kind of document. That's how they're kind of written. And so I find them super interesting to read, and some of them have really thought-provoking stories. So today I was just going to rank a few that I thought would be pretty terrifying to experience, see, or interact with in real life. So to start off, we're going to do the classic SCP-173, which is the statue. I'll throw up a picture over here. He is basically a tan statue that can only move if nobody's looking at it. So he's basically like a weeping angel from Doctor Who. So usually you would have, like, say when they do testing on this creature, they would have like a group of 3 go in so that everybody can look at him, and they would take turns blinking, and they would let each other know when they would blink so that it wouldn't kill them. So basically how it kills you is that if you do look away from it, it'll basically move closer to you in the blink of an eye and snap your neck. Every single time it snaps your neck. So in terms of looks, he does look pretty scary, at least the original design. There has been some copyright issues, so I know it had to be changed, but at least on the wiki, it's still the same image. So I think overall he would go in the scary tier. I think that would be fitting. As you can see, I got not that scary at the bottom, a little scary, and then we have scary, and then terrifying, and then pure dread and terror, because some of these I think are pretty bad. So next up, I think is a little lesser known one. I'm not too sure, but I remember vividly coming across this one when, randomly I was just, at school, just reading SCPs in class. And I clicked random, and it gave me this one. It gave me SCP-3001, Red Reality. Basically what this one is it's a dimension between dimensions that's completely empty and pitch black. It says that it has an extremely low Hume rate, which is like a measurement or strength of the reality of like the dimension / world that you're in. And since it's so low, objects and biological matter decay at a very different rate, basically, extremely slower. They decay extremely slower. Any damage that would usually be fatal would not impede any biological function. So, for example, the person in this reality could lose more than 70% of their body mass and still be alive, which I think in itself is pretty terrifying, because just imagining, if you read the article yourself, which I highly recommend you do, it's pretty jarring stuff. I think that it's one of the saddest stories I've ever read, just because it's all from the perspective of the person that got trapped in this reality, and how he's documenting him falling apart in real time, and how he misses his wife, and he's just basically losing his mind in this reality of nothingness, and his body's falling apart in strings and cables, and he doesn't know what's going on because he can't see anything. Now, the reason why it's called the Red Reality is because when he fell in, audio recording fell in with him, and that red light on the audio recording, which is what he uses to record his experience, is the only thing he can see is that red light. But if even if he holds his hand up to the red light, it doesn't like emit onto his hand. He can only see the red light. So basically, over time, your body just slowly disintegrates, and you can still feel everything, and it will feel like hundreds of years in infinite darkness. And at the end, he actually does come out, but he's just a puddle of like blood and bones. And they did DNA tests, and they found out that it was him, and his wife was completely distraught. It's a super sad story, but definitely worth a read because it's really well written. And it's just super interesting overall. So for the Red Reality, I think I would put this one in pure dread and terror. Because, like I said, the idea of being trapped in infinite blackness for what feels like hundreds of years, feeling your body decay into pieces, well, I mean, that's one kind of hell. So the next one we have is SCP-6448, called Not Deer. They're basically super intelligent deer that are presumed sapient, but they stand out from other deer with certain defining characteristics, like backwards bent legs, a bloated abdomen, the eyes of different animals, or just the general, like, they're not afraid of humans. Or sometimes they walk on their hind legs, or they just stand at the edge of a tree line watching you. So they're basically like a kind of like a skinwalker, I would say, kind of thing. But they're known to observe, stalk, and pursue humans for hours or even days. And sometimes they can even just go into your house and take your stuff and leave. And then you'll find it randomly one day in your front yard, being like, how did this get here? And you watched your security camera and you find out that a deer walking on its hind legs took your guitar. What's even terrifying about this is that they also mimic voices. So they can mimic somebody you love, or friend, or even you, and lure you out to see them, or just to scare you, which is pretty terrifying. But if you notice its unnatural traits, like you make it known that you know that it's not a real deer, they kill you. So I think I would put this one in terrifying, because just the thought of, you know, seeing a deer that is acting unnatural, but is trying to fit in with other deer, that's just scary. Because the whole mimicry thing, I think, is definitely one of the scariest things a monster in fiction could do, is to mimic an animal or a person and try to fit in, but it's just not really that right. It taps into the uncanny valley kind of thing, but it doesn't really know how to be human or like a deer. It doesn't really know how to be a deer. So next we have SCP-015, Pipe Nightmare. So this one is basically just a massive collection of pipes, millions of different pipes, all ranging in size, color, age, and what material they're made out of. Some of them are made of flesh, some of them are made of metal, some of them are made of bone, ash, wood, whatever. And the whole like arrangement of pipes stretches for over 120 miles. But I believe the inside is bigger than the outside, so it's kind of like that non-Euclidean geometry sort of thing. And it attempts to continue to expand, but I believe the Foundation is somehow, stopping that from happening. So it does react to aggression. So like if researchers or somebody goes inside and they like bang on a pipe, one of the pipes will burst and just basically start spraying all over the person that showed aggression towards the pipes. And it will spray basically anything that you could imagine, from oil to ground up glass to bugs, wood shards, volcanic ash, boiling water, literally anything, even like honey. that's pretty gross. but but yeah, the thought of this one is pretty scary because it's just you're going into this endless mass of pipes, and if you look at the picture, it is pretty spooky looking. Just so many pipes, and they're all different, and you never know, what's going to happen because it's always changing. I highly recommend that you read the article too, because the amendums with voice transcripts of the researchers going in and reading about what happens to them is pretty cool. There's like some really interesting stuff, like how the whole pipes keep changing around them, so they get lost. They don't know where to go, and one of the people even end up falling like infinitely, just down, down, down for what feels like days. And he was actually falling for days, just screaming and screaming, um, until he started to die, which at that point was almost welcome, as it says in the article. So I definitely recommend you read that one because it's a very interesting story. I liked this one. I thought it was really cool when I came across it. And overall, I think I would put this in terrifying. It's just, I feel like seeing all those pipes and the thought of them just like spitting literally anything at me, if they feel even somewhat threatened, is pretty scary. And it would just put a pin in my stomach, knowing that the whole pipes could just change around me and I'd be stuck in there. And, my tomb would just be pipes and I would drown in honey or bugs or whatever it decides to throw at me. So next up we have SCP-1562, the slide. This one is a metal slide at a playground that if you go down head first on your belly with your arms by your side, just before the end of the slide, you'll end up in a pocket dimension that is basically a tunnel so tight you can't move. So imagine you're in the slide, and you're still at an incline going down, but you're now in a tunnel that's like super tight. The slide is closed in on you on all sides. It's dark, you can't see anything, and this, super claustrophobic. This one is just really, really sad because, the, they actually were able to, keep radio contact with the D class, which is like the guinea pigs that they sent into the slide. And they said that there were kids stuck in there calling for their parents, but obviously they couldn't get them. Any attempt to keep a rope tied to them the rope would instantly get severed as soon as they teleported to the other dimension. And so there's just a bunch of people stuck in this pocket dimension that's just a tight tunnel with no way to get out. You can't even move your arms or your legs or your head. You basically are there until you die of dehydration, I guess. But it was pretty interesting because the people that go in, they can see the other people in front of them, like their shoes just in front of their face. But they can't hear them. Like imagine you're in this tunnel and there's someone in front of you. You can hear them talking, but when you talk to them, they can't hear you. And they just constantly repeat things that they've already said, kind of like a time loop. It's like a weird time dilation thing in this pocket dimension that doesn't really make sense to me. Maybe you could go try and read the article for yourself and figure out exactly what is the deal with that. But I think this one, personally, if it would happen to me, I would put it in pure dread and terror because that the thought of being stuck in a like a really, really thin tunnel, not being able to move, and you're just there until you die of dehydration is pretty terrifying. It's like those cave divers, but worse because you actually can't get out. Alright, so for our next one, we have SCP-001. Now this is going to be the Lily's Proposal version, which I know there's lots of different versions of SCP-001. And this one I haven't seen brought up anywhere else. I don't know if it's like that popular or not, but it's called World Gone Beautiful. Basically, it's a version of SCP-001 where all of a sudden, 90% of Earth's viable landmass spontaneously blooms beautiful, bright, and vibrant flowers. Out of nowhere. Just the entire Earth covered, absolutely covered in flowers. The water will clear across the world, pollution will vanish, and the temperatures will be suddenly very comfortable by considered very comfortable by all of the population. Every human on Earth will also feel a drastic decrease in violence. So, it doesn't sound too bad. It just sounds like, all the Earth is covered in flowers, all the water is suddenly clear of pollution, the air is too, and the temperature is really nice. It's a nice sunny day. Everything's perfectly fine, but at the same time, every human on Earth will also um, become aware of the fate of the Earth. So basically, this whole event, this beautiful event, signifies the end of the world and the extinction of humanity, but in a more beautiful way. So, like, just out of nowhere, you could be living your day and you'll feel super calm all of a sudden. And you'll go outside, you'll see all the flowers, you'll feel the air, and it'll all smell super fresh and super nice, and you'll feel this overwhelming sense of calmness and the acceptance that the world is going to end in the next 24 hours. Everything will cease and it will just be over. Which I think this was a very interesting idea for like an apocalypse / world ending scenario where it's not like all everybody's dying and everything's super sad. It's just like a very beautiful calm acceptance of the world's end. So when I came across this one, I thought it was pretty cool. I first saw it on a YouTube video. Someone made like a video about it. It was like I think it was made as like a news station putting out a message about it or something. So I would put this one in not that scary. Yes, the world is ending, and that sucks. But if there's no violence and everything's beautiful, then it wouldn't really be that terrifying, and you would be accepting of it. So overall, not that bad. All right, so for our next one, we have SCP-1128, the Aquatic Horror. Also, don't mind, I just took a shower, so that's why hair's wet and different shirt. So the Aquatic Horror is basically like a mind virus. It spreads through any sort of written / spoken description of a sea monster. It's a very specific sea monster. Once a person reads the description, or somebody tells them the description of the monster, they will fear any body of water. When they fully submerge under any body of water, they will completely vanish, regardless of the water's actual depth. Sometimes they reappear, terrified, and try to leave the water. Other times, the water will suddenly fill with blood and remains that are always confirmed to be the person that vanished under the surface. So those that reappear state that they were transported to a vast ocean where the massive sea creature that was described to them was chasing them. Even if you do survive, you will eventually see visions of the creature in any body of water and can be pulled into a vast ocean through just a glass of water. Okay, now I have thalassophobia, and I'm sure a lot of other people do, because I know that the fear of the ocean and just big bodies of water in general is a very common fear. So immediately this one terrifies me, because the idea of just, going to the pool for like a nice day, when it's hot out, and you just want to, you want to chill in the water, and then you just, dunk your head underneath for like, oh, who can hold the breath the longest competition. Next thing you know, you are in an incredibly deep ocean, and there's a massive sea creature swimming towards you with its jaws wide open. Okay, I think I would shit myself, and a lot of other people would also say the same thing, especially since most people die when they do see it. Um, yeah, it just doesn't sound nice. Also, studies show that the ocean that people get transported to is not sort of like pocket dimension or an alternate reality with the ocean, but it's an actual ocean on Earth. So they're like, maybe this creature is real, and it's actually in the ocean, but they don't know which ocean. So I think I would put this one in pure dread and terror. Because for me, yeah, big body of water, big monster. Oh my god, I'd probably pass out instantly. I mean, that sounds terrible. Okay, so for our next one, we have SCP-096. This is a very popular one, probably one of the most popular other than 173. He's nicknamed the Shy Guy. And he's like a 9 foot tall, pale, skinny humanoid that walks around crying, and it covers its face. Whenever its face is seen, it goes into a fit of panic, starts screaming, crying super loud, just super manic. You know, it does not like it when you look at its face, and it will just keep screaming and keep screaming and keep screaming, and it'll just keep crying until eventually it will run at you and absolutely maul you, eat you, shred you to pieces, whatever. Um, Anybody that looks at his face, it will get to you no matter what. And it doesn't even just have to be actually looking at the creature's face. It could be a picture or a video, any sort of material that contains its face in general. Um, it'll basically just chase you to the ends of the earth. And no matter where you are, even if you're at the bottom of the ocean or you're in space, it will find you and tear you to pieces, no matter what. I don't know how exactly. Maybe it can jump super high. I don't know too much about it. It's also like basically pretty much impossible to kill. It just you can shred it down to its bone, but I'm pretty sure it just regenerates. I'm not too certain. Yeah, no matter what you do, it'll find you. Even if the picture of its face only has 4 pixels in it, just 4 pixels, it will get mad and it will come find you. So this one is pretty terrifying. If I saw that thing, I'd panic. I'd panic for sure. Um, so I think I would put this one in terrifying, not pure dread and terror, but terrifying. All right, so the next one is another pretty popular one. This one is SCP-3000. It's kind of similar to the aquatic horror that I talked about earlier. Its nickname, I'm probably gonna mispronounce it, but it's called Anan Tashisha, something like that. It's basically an incredibly massive sea serpent that looks like an eel. Its full length is unknown, but it's estimated to be between 372 to 559 miles, or 600 kilometers to 900 kilometers. So that's a pretty big range. Um, Regardless, it's absolutely massive sea creatures, bigger than the aquatic horror. And to estimate, that's basically about the same size as the distance from Miami, Florida to Atlanta, Georgia, which is pretty pretty big distance. It resides in the Bay of Bengal, rarely ever moves. It only moves its head every now and then just to eat some prey. Um, and it secretes a liquid from its skin, which the SCP Foundation, like the research group, the secret company that studies these creatures, they actually use that liquid that this creature produces for amnestics, which is basically a drug that wipes your mind, makes you forget everything, or to like a certain date, whatever they want you to forget, they can make you forget. So that's fun. But it was noted that when people see it, like the researchers that went down, they feel intense fear and paranoia, and they get absolutely mind-boggling, painful headaches. And it just makes people lose their minds. They lose their minds. They're like, "That's a big ass eel. I'm going crazy. I can't do this," and they just go insane. They start saying like these like cosmic horror like random scriptures, just like random psychotic crazy stuff, just on complete schizo rant. um if they see or get near this creature, so tests usually fail. um I didn't read the entire article, so I don't fully know how they successfully get the liquid. Maybe they use drones, I'm not too sure. um But since this one doesn't really move and it just kind of sits there, I think I would put this in scary. It's not really too big of a threat though, right? Yes, I'm afraid of water. A lot of people are, and the idea of this massive thing in the ocean, terrifying. I mean, look at the picture. But it's not. It doesn't really pose too much of a threat. It kind of just sits there, at least from what I read. So, yeah, I think scary is a good fit for it. So this next one, I'm pretty sure is a pretty lesser known one. I thought it was really intriguing though. I just randomly came across it. It is SCP-3034, the counting station. So it's like a radio station, radio broadcast coming from deep inside the Russian tundra in the middle of nowhere. And every now and then it randomly transmits a signal of a young girl counting down from 200 in the Russian language. In the station, they found etchings that said, "Don't let her finish," and "All is well." And so basically, once the researchers tell the broadcast, like through the speaker, "All is well" in Russian, the counting stops. They noted that in the background of the broadcast, they could hear a distortion sound that got louder the lower they let her count. And they said it kind of sounded like the screams of children. And so, pretty terrifying implications there. But one time, a researcher let it get to zero. And 5 seconds after it finished counting, an extremely powerful broadcast was emitted that let out an ear-piercing screech across the world. Everybody could hear, and it would like physically hurt to listen to. It went on for 25 seconds and then stopped. Once the researchers said the kill phrase, "All is well." And in the next 24 hours, missing cases of children rose significantly across the entire world. And once the normal broadcast came back on, the counting started from 199 instead of 200, and the distortion was significantly louder. So this one is a pretty big, like, mysterious. They don't really expand too much upon it, but I mean the implications are pretty obvious. Um, it seems like whatever this counting station is, or some sort of weapon, as the document makes it seem to be, just I don't know, takes children, and I don't know, they scream. So it's definitely pretty spooky, definitely pretty mysterious. I thought it was pretty interesting though when I found it. I think this one I'm going to put in. Uh, I'll put it in scary. I'll put it in scary because not too much is clear about what happens exactly, but maybe all the kids that were kidnapped or like taken to like some sort of hellish place. Um, I'm not sure. Maybe instead I'll do terrifying. I'll do terrifying. Sounds fitting. All right, so this next one is like basically a kind of reality bender. Um, this one is called SCP-3812. Voice Behind Me. It's basically a god that views reality itself as a book he can flip through. He can like manipulate time, teleport, create and delete entire realities at will. He's completely uncontainable, obviously, since he's like just alter reality, crazy god thing. It doesn't have any specific figure, as you can tell from the picture. This is the only like illustration they have of it. But they do know that it used to be a human. It is not in the clear mind though. It has extreme schizophrenia, dissociation, dysphoria, and more. So it basically has no clue what's going on. It's a god with alter like reality bending properties and powers, but he doesn't really know how to use them or what's happening to him. He's just constantly losing his mind and just in a state of dissociation, which sounds terrible to be honest, because already being able to create and delete realities would just, I don't know, that would really mess with your mind. And if your mind's already basically cooked like a fried egg, then what kind of existence is that? You know what I mean? Um, they noted in the article that it seems to be a human that's now like a ghost, and its mental state is basically at zero, like I said. Because they noticed that it was visiting its grave, where he was buried. So after death, he turned into this god thing, and I don't know how exactly. But his power is pretty substantial. I mean, one time he accidentally caused the disappearance of the entire country of Mongolia. It just zipped out of existence. And one time, every human on Earth heard him screaming in their heads. Every single person on Earth at the same time heard him screaming in their heads, and then it stopped. And one time he accidentally destroyed an entire hospital, because that he just can do that. He can do literally anything. He can delete the entire planet if he wanted to. But I recommend you read the article because there's a really cool passage near the bottom where he's like in the ocean and the world, like he's literally tearing the world apart. There's creating a massive vortex in the ocean, and all the cities and continents are like deleting in and out of existence and being just torn apart to pieces. And the whole time he's having a conversation with somebody. I think it was with himself. I don't exactly remember. Um, and then at the end of the conversation, everything just goes back to normal. What I do want to know is how exactly the Foundation was able to catch that conversation and record it, but because I believe the article says how, but it just doesn't really make much sense when you think about it. But pushing that aside, I think the whole thing is pretty cool. And pretty scary, but for the ranking, I'd say a little scary because obviously, and you might think that's a stupid take, but obviously he can do anything, right? And just blip things out of existence and create realities. But from the perspective of any person, they don't know he exists. They don't know like when something he does happen. They have no clue what's going on. Okay, there's no fear to come with it because you could just delete. You could delete, and yeah, that's terrifying. But and even if you did know that this thing existed, and um, you know, you knew what it was capable of, it would be pretty terrifying. Just like existential dread kind of feeling. But it's not like oh, I'm being tortured forever or like trapped in a cave, kind of thing. It's just like a god that can delete anything whenever it wants. And so, I don't know. It doesn't really torture or hurt people. So yeah, it's scary, but it's not like a super big, like terrifying thing. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on that one. Maybe you think it's kind of stupid. Let me know what you think though. So this next one, is pretty pretty terrifying thought, honestly. It's called 2718. What happens after? So basically, it's the SCP that the SCP is the discovery of what happens after death. It's the realization that after you die, you feel everything that happens to your body. So you'll feel every organ decompose and break down. You'll feel the maggots and insects eating your flesh and your body, wiggling inside of you. You can even feel each follicle of hair forever. Um, I think that this would be a better case if you were in a coffin because it's more isolated. But in the case of this story, it's told from the perspective of a O5 council member that died of a heart attack on a beach on a tropical island, and he was completely alone. Nobody knew he was there because he was completely alone, and he didn't tell anybody. He was just on vacation. But yeah, he died of a heart attack on a tropical beach. And so he explained that he felt the sun sear his body and the wildlife eat away at him, even feeling the pieces of him that were carried by the wind into the ocean and ended up traveling through the digestive tract of fish. he was resurrected because he was like O5, which is like top of the Foundation. And when he told the rest of the council, they memory wiped all of them because it caused such an immense fear of death that it was just pure panic and hysteria amongst all of them. Because yeah, that's just a very bleak and terrifying way of what happens after death. You feel every single thing, like literally every single thing, just immense pain and suffering. Um, I don't know. That sounds pretty terrible. I think, um, I certainly hope that's not what happens after death, but I think I would definitely put this one in pure dread and terror because that just sounds absolutely miserable, more than agony, more than you can really put into words. It just sounds awful. All right, so my mic died. Sorry about that. All right, so we are finally at the last one on this list. This one is, I think, the scariest one I've ever read. It is SCP-439, the bonehive. So basically, it is a gray, somewhat translucent earwig bug that sits in your room and waits for you to fall asleep. And then it goes into your mouth while you're sleeping, crawls down your trachea, and sits in one of your lungs. See, I don't like bugs, and the thought of that is just, it's terrifying. And then not even that, but now comes the bad part, the worst part. So then you wake up, and you feel super sick. And you're like, man, I feel absolutely terrible. I have this super tight feeling in my chest, and you're cramping. You have lots of abdominal cramping. It's super bad, and the pain just keeps getting worse and worse and worse until eventually you pass out from how bad it hurts. And so then while you're passed out, the bugs will basically make it so that your bones start to rapidly grow in all sorts of directions, even breaking through your skin. They're just growing and growing and growing. And presumably you could feel it all happening. Very painful, of course. But your bones are just growing, they're piercing out of you. Then you'll wake up and you'll be overwhelmingly compelled to crawl into a dark space, like a cabinet or a closet, just somewhere dark and quiet, like a mold, for example. And you will sit there, and you'll sit there with your knees up to your chest on the ground, wrapping your arms around your legs, and you'll have your face in your legs too. And then over the course of the next 3 days, your bones will grow out of your body and form a cocoon over your organs. And at this point, there will be around 30,000 gray earwigs crawling around inside your body, feeding on your organs, and using others as like a breeding ground for eggs. So basically, you are a cocoon made of bone connected to the wall, and they're eating you from the inside out. You are an ant hive, but for earwig creatures. And it isn't exactly known if the person is still alive at this point. I like to believe that they aren't, just to make me feel a little better. But they did make a terrifying discovery. They said that they tried to peel open one of the eyes of a bonehive subject, and it was following the flashlight that it was shining into it. But it could just be the earwigs, controlling your mind and making you look at the light, but hopefully, the person inside is actually, they died a long time ago. That's what I like to think. Eventually, after like 5 months or so, a queen will mate with an ant, and then, earwig, and the entire cocoon will just explode. They'll all die, and the queen will go and find a new host, and the cycle continues. Easily the worst one. Easily the worst one I've read. Super terrifying, and there is some pretty strong contenders, but I really hate bugs. I hate bugs a lot, especially earwigs. They freak me out, And so the idea of, you know, earwig hive inside your body and you can feel all the bones and everything, it's just absolute pure terror and dread. So I hope you agree. I don't know what could be worse. But yeah, that's all of it. So I hope you liked the video. I do think about doing a little bit more tier lists. But I have some other ideas as well that I want to get into. I just like to create stuff, so hopefully you like to watch it. And if you have any ideas or recommendations for like more SCPs or other videos that you want me to do, or even just games that you want me to play, let me know, because I would be down for anything that you want to see. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.